Bon Scott was the iconic and charismatic frontman for AC/DC, whose gritty vocals and rebellious persona defined the band's rise to global stardom on albums like Highway to Hell. He was the quintessential rock and roll singer, embodying a spirit of wild freedom and untamed energy that connected with millions of fans around the globe, cementing his status as one of the greatest frontmen in rock history. On February 19, 1980, Scott was found dead in a car in London after a night of heavy drinking. He was just 33 years old. The coroner ruled his death a death by misadventure, with the official cause listed as acute alcohol poisoning. He had tragically choked after passing out from extreme intoxication, a sudden and devastating end for a performer known for his boundless energy. His death sent a shockwave through the music world, leaving his bandmates and fans stunned at the sudden loss of such a vibrant talent. Following his death, Bon Scott's body was transported back to Australia. He was laid to rest at Fremantle Cemetery in Western Australia, a place he considered his hometown. His grave has since become one of the most visited in the country and has been declared a heritage-listed site by the National Trust of Australia. The site, marked by a headstone and memorial plaque, is a pilgrimage destination where fans leave guitar picks, letters, and bottles of whiskey as tokens of respect. It serves as a tangible connection to the man whose voice powered one of the world's biggest rock bands. Ronnie Van Zant was the heart, soul, and commanding voice of the southern rock band Lynyrd Skynyrd. As the band's primary lyricist, he co-wrote enduring anthems like Sweet Home Alabama and Freebird, crafting authentic stories of Southern life that resonated deeply with audiences. His intense stage presence and no-nonsense attitude made him a natural leader, guiding Lynyrd Skynyrd to become a powerhouse of the 1970s music scene. On October 20th, 1977, just 3 days after the release of their album Street Survivors, the band's chartered airplane ran out of fuel and crashed in a wooded area near Gillsburg, Mississippi. Ronnie Van Zant was killed instantly from massive head injuries upon impact. He was 29 years old. The crash also claimed the lives of guitarist Steve Gaines, singer Cassie Gaines, and their assistant road manager, bringing the original incarnation of the band to a tragic and abrupt end. The event is remembered as one of the most profound tragedies in rock music history. Van Zant was originally buried in Orange Park, Florida. After his mausoleum was vandalized in 2000, his remains were relocated for security to Riverside Memorial Park in Jacksonville, Florida. He's now interred in a heavy concrete vault, his grave marked by a simple, flat plaque bearing his name and dates. Despite its understated nature, the site remains a place of pilgrimage for fans, who often leave American flags and other mementos in honor of the man whose powerful voice and vision defined the sound of Southern rock. Howard Duane Allman, known as Sky Dog, was a revolutionary guitarist and the co-founder of the Allman Brothers Band. His virtuosic slide guitar playing is considered by many to be among the greatest of all time, setting a new standard on tracks like Statesboro Blues. Beyond his own band, he was a famed session musician, most notably contributing the iconic slide guitar solo on Layla by Derek and the Dominoes. In just a few short years, Duane Allman created a body of work that was both groundbreaking and profoundly influential. On October 29, 1971, at the height of the band's success, Allman was riding his motorcycle at high speed in Macon, Georgia, when he swerved to avoid a truck. He was thrown from the bike, which then landed on top of him, causing massive internal injuries. He died in the hospital several hours later at the age of 24. His death was a devastating blow to the music world, which had lost one of its brightest and most innovative stars far too soon. Duane Allman was laid to rest in Rose Hill Cemetery in Macon, Georgia, a historic location that was a favorite hangout spot for the band. His grave is situated on a small hill and is marked by a simple marble slab. The site is a place of reverence for music lovers from around the world. A low iron fence surrounds the plot, which he shares with his bandmate Barry Oakley. The peaceful and contemplative spot serves as a permanent memorial to his immense talent and the profound impact he had on music in his tragically short life. Barry Oakley was the innovative and foundational bassist for the Allman Brothers Band. His melodic and driving bass lines were a crucial voice in the band's complex improvisational sound, often acting as a lead instrument that interwove with the dual guitars. As a founding member, his deep, fluid style helped to redefine the role of the bass guitar in rock music and was instrumental in shaping the band's unique musical direction and cohesive spirit during its formative years. In a tragic and eerie echo of his bandmate's fate, Berry Oakley was killed in a motorcycle accident on November 11, 1972, just over a year after Duane Allman's death and only 3 blocks away. Oakley collided with a city bus and initially refused medical treatment, believing he was uninjured. However, he died hours later from a fractured skull and cerebral swelling. He was 24 years old, the same age as Duane. The loss of a second founding member in such a similar fashion was an almost incomprehensible tragedy for the band and its fans. Berry Oakley was buried in Rose Hill Cemetery in Macon, Georgia, directly beside his close friend and bandmate, Duane Allman. The decision to lay them to rest side by side was a fitting tribute to their deep personal and musical bond. Their graves are enclosed by a shared iron fence, creating a single unified memorial site. The sight of their 2 graves together is a powerful and poignant symbol of 2 immense talents lost to fate. The shared plot is a hallowed ground for fans, a testament to a legendary partnership cut short. Tom Petty was an American rock icon who, as the frontman of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, crafted a timeless sound rooted in classic rock and roll. With a string of hits including American Girl and Free Fallin', Petty wrote the soundtrack for a generation with his honest, direct, and relatable songwriting. Over a 40-year career, he remained a vital and respected artist, celebrated for his integrity and unwavering commitment to his music. On October 2, 2017, just 1 week after concluding a major tour, Petty was found in full cardiac arrest at his home in Malibu. He died later that evening at the age of 66. His death was ruled an accidental overdose from a mix of prescribed medications. He had been suffering from several painful conditions, including a fractured hip, but chose to continue touring for his fans. The combination of painkillers he was taking to manage the pain ultimately overwhelmed his system. Following his death, Tom Petty was cremated, and his ashes were interred at Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery in Los Angeles. This small and serene cemetery is the final resting place for many Hollywood legends. Petty's grave is a simple, flat plaque set in the lawn, an incredibly understated memorial for such a monumental figure in music. The modest marker reflects the humble and down-to-earth personality he was known for, offering a quiet spot for fans to pay their respects to the man who gave the world so many unforgettable songs. Chris Cornell was a commanding force in modern rock, celebrated for his astonishing 4-octave vocal range and poignant songwriting. As the lead singer for Soundgarden, he was a key architect of the 1990s grunge movement. He later achieved further international acclaim as the frontman for Audioslave and as a solo artist. Across all his endeavors, he was known for his incredible vocal talent and his ability to convey deep emotion and vulnerability in his music. On May 18, 2017, after performing a concert with Soundgarden in Detroit, Cornell was found unresponsive in his hotel room. He was pronounced dead at the scene, and the medical examiner later ruled his death a suicide by hanging. He was 52 years old. The news of his sudden death was a devastating shock to the global music community, especially to those who had seen him perform with such passion just hours earlier. His death marked a profound loss, silencing one of the most distinctive voices of his generation. Chris Cornell was cremated, and his ashes are buried at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Los Angeles. His gravesite, located near a tranquil lake, is marked by a large, beautifully carved headstone featuring the epitaph, "Voice of our generation and an artist for all time." The site has become a sanctuary for his fans, who gather to leave flowers, light candles, and share memories of the man whose music touched their lives so deeply. The memorial is a dignified and fitting tribute to an artist of extraordinary talent. Lane Staley was the haunting and powerful lead vocalist of the Seattle-based band Alice in Chains. His distinctively bleak, harmonized vocals and raw, confessional lyrics about addiction and depression became a defining feature of the grunge era. Staley's voice was an instrument of immense pain and beauty, and his unflinching honesty on albums like Dirt left a profound and lasting impact on music, even as his life was tragically overshadowed by his long battle with heroin addiction. Staley's struggle with substance abuse led him to retreat into isolation in his Seattle condominium. On April 19, 2002, police forced entry into his home after he had not been heard from for 2 weeks and discovered his body. The coroner determined that he had died from an overdose of heroin and cocaine approximately 2 weeks earlier, on or around April 5th. This date was tragically poignant, as it was the same day fellow grunge icon Kurt Cobain had died 8 years prior. Staley was 34 years old. Layne Staley was cremated, and as such, there is no public gravesite or headstone. His final resting place is private, known only to his family, a decision that reflects the reclusive nature of his final years. However, a public memorial for fans exists at the International Fountain at Seattle Center, where a granite bench is dedicated to his memory. This location serves as a focal point for remembrance, a place where fans can honor the man whose unforgettable voice captured the darkness and beauty of a generation. Scott Weiland was the dynamic frontman of the Stone Temple Pilots, one of the most successful bands of the 1990s alternative rock movement. With his distinctive baritone voice and glam rock style, Weiland was a captivating performer who co-wrote hits like Plush and Interstate Love Song. He later found continued success with the supergroup Velvet Revolver. Throughout his career, Weiland was praised for his talent, but his life was persistently plagued by a very public struggle with substance abuse. On December 3, 2015, while on tour with his band The Wildabouts, Weiland was found dead on his tour bus in Bloomington, Minnesota. He was 48 years old. The medical examiner's office ruled his death an accidental overdose from a mix of cocaine, ethanol, and MDA. His death was a tragic, but for many who had followed his long and difficult journey with addiction, not entirely surprising end to a life defined by both brilliant artistic highs and devastating personal lows. Scott Weiland was laid to rest at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Los Angeles. Following a private funeral, his body was cremated, and his ashes are interred in a niche within one of the cemetery's mausoleums. The marker is a simple, dignified plaque bearing his name and dates. The choice of Hollywood Forever is fitting for a rock star of his stature, placing him among the legends who influenced him. His final resting place offers a quiet, permanent tribute to the complex and troubled artist whose voice was a defining sound for a generation. Syd Barrett was the brilliant and enigmatic founding member of Pink Floyd. As the band's original creative genius, he was the force behind their early psychedelic sound and their debut album, The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. His innovative guitar work and surreal, whimsical songwriting set the stage for the band's future explorations. However, his incredible creative light was soon extinguished by severe mental illness, which was exacerbated by his heavy use of psychedelic drugs. By 1968, Barrett's erratic behavior made it impossible for him to continue with the band. He withdrew from the music industry entirely and spent the next 3 decades in quiet seclusion in his hometown of Cambridge, England, living as a private citizen and pursuing painting. On July 7, 2006, he died at his home from pancreatic cancer at the age of 60. His death was a quiet end to a life that had begun with a spectacular burst of creative energy. In accordance with his private nature, Syd Barrett's final arrangements were kept entirely out of the public eye. He was cremated following a private funeral service attended only by his family. The location of his ashes has never been publicly disclosed. There is no grave, headstone, or public memorial for fans to visit. This ultimate privacy is perhaps the most fitting tribute to the man he became after leaving music behind. His true memorial lies not in a cemetery, but in the groundbreaking music he created, and the enduring legend of Pink Floyd's Crazy Diamond. Brian Jones was the visionary founder and original leader of the Rolling Stones. A gifted multi-instrumentalist, he was responsible for much of the band's early musical direction, adding eclectic textures with instruments like the sitar on Painted Black. He was the band's most musically adventurous member, a flamboyant figure who embodied the spirit of the 1960s. However, his creative contributions were eventually overshadowed by his severe drug abuse and his deteriorating relationship with his bandmates. Less than a month after being fired from the band he formed, on July 3, 1969, Jones was found motionless at the bottom of the swimming pool at his home. He was 27 years old. The coroner's report listed the cause of death as death by misadventure, noting his health had been severely compromised by years of substance abuse. Despite the official ruling, controversy and conspiracy theories have surrounded his death for decades, with some believing he was murdered. Brian Jones was buried at Cheltenham Cemetery in his hometown of Cheltenham, England. His grave was initially marked by an ornate headstone, but due to repeated vandalism, it was replaced with a simpler, flat stone. The original epitaph on his grave read, "Please don't judge me too harshly," a line that spoke to his troubled life and complex legacy. His grave continues to be a destination for dedicated fans who wish to pay their respects to the band's brilliant and tragic founder. Janis Joplin was a force of nature, a raw and powerful blues rock singer whose raspy, emotion-drenched voice is one of the most distinctive in music history. She shattered conventions for female performers with her unapologetically wild and free-spirited persona. With hits like Piece of My Heart and Me and Bobby McGee, she became a cultural icon whose influence paved the way for countless women in rock. On October 4, 1970, during a break from recording her album Pearl, Joplin was found dead in her Hollywood hotel room. She was 27 years old. The official cause of death was an accidental heroin overdose, likely compounded by the effects of alcohol. Her death came as a devastating shock, occurring just 16 days after the death of Jimi Hendrix, and leaving a profound void in the music world, as she was on the verge of releasing her most successful album. In her will, Joplin left money for a party to celebrate her life, not mourn her death. In keeping with her untamed spirit, she had no traditional burial. Her body was cremated, and on October 13, 1970, her ashes were scattered from a plane into the Pacific Ocean off the coast of California. Her final resting place is the vast, open sea, a fittingly boundless memorial for a woman who lived with such fierce and uncontainable energy. For Joplin, there is no stone to visit. Her legacy is her music, and her memorial is the ocean itself. David Bowie was a visionary artist and one of the most influential musicians of the 20th century. He was a master of reinvention, a cultural chameleon who constantly pushed the boundaries of music, fashion, and identity. From the glam rock of Ziggy Stardust to his electronic experimentation and pop superstardom, Bowie's career was a continuous journey of artistic exploration. He was a true innovator whose work challenged conventions and inspired generations to embrace their own creativity. On January 10, 2016, just 2 days after his 69th birthday and the release of his final album, Black Star, Bowie's death was announced. He had been battling liver cancer for 18 months, a diagnosis he had kept entirely private. His final album is now viewed as a deliberate parting gift, an artistic statement that grapples with mortality. He worked until the very end, turning his death into a final, poignant piece of performance art. David Bowie was intensely private, and his final arrangements reflected this. In his will, he stipulated that he be cremated and his ashes scattered in Bali in accordance with Buddhist rituals. There was no funeral. His cremation took place quietly and without ceremony, just as he had requested. As a result, there is no grave or public memorial site for David Bowie. His final resting place is not a physical location, but an idea, a dispersal into a place he loved, leaving his legacy to exist purely in his vast and brilliant body of work. Kurt Cobain was the reluctant voice of a generation. As the frontman for Nirvana, he channeled the angst and disillusionment of Generation X into powerful anthems. The release of Smells Like Teen Spirit in 1991 changed the course of music, catapulting grunge into the global mainstream. Cobain became an international superstar, but it was a role he was deeply uncomfortable with, struggling under the pressures of fame and with chronic health issues and heroin addiction. On April 8, 1994, Cobain was found dead in his Seattle home. The coroner estimated he had died 3 days earlier, on April 5th, at the age of 27. The cause of death was ruled a suicide from a self-inflicted shotgun wound. A high concentration of heroin was also found in his system. His death sent a massive shockwave across the world, sparking a global outpouring of grief from millions of young fans who felt a deep connection to his music and his pain. Kurt Cobain was cremated. A portion of his ashes was scattered in the Wishkah River in Washington, while the rest was retained by his family. With no official gravesite, fans created their own memorial at Veretta Park, located next to his former home. A specific bench in the park has become a de facto shrine, covered in messages, lyrics, and drawings left by fans from around the world. This humble park bench is the central pilgrimage point for those wishing to pay tribute to the troubled icon who changed music forever. Freddie Mercury was one of the greatest performers in rock history. As the flamboyant frontman of Queen, he possessed a stunning vocal range and an unparalleled command of the stage. He wrote many of the band's most famous songs, including Bohemian Rhapsody and We Are the Champions. He was a true showman, a unique and irreplaceable talent whose music and theatricality captivated millions and continues to resonate with audiences worldwide. On November 23, 1991, Mercury released a public statement confirming he had AIDS. Just over 24 hours later, on November 24th, he died at his London home at the age of 45. The official cause of death was bronchial pneumonia resulting from AIDS. His brave final announcement helped to destigmatize the disease and raise global awareness at a critical time in the history of the epidemic. His passing was mourned by millions as the loss of a true musical giant. The final resting place of Freddie Mercury is one of rock's most enduring mysteries. He was cremated at Kensal Green Cemetery in London, but the location of his ashes was kept a closely guarded secret, known only to his friend Mary Austin. In 2013, a plaque dedicated to Farrokh Bulsara, Mercury's birth name, was discovered at the cemetery but was later removed, deepening the mystery. To this day, the true location of his ashes remains unknown, creating a final enigmatic chapter to the life of a man who was larger than life. Jim Morrison was the charismatic and controversial frontman of The Doors, known as the Lizard King. He was a poet whose dark, surreal lyrics explored themes of sex, death, and rebellion. His wild, shamanistic stage presence made him one of rock's first and most iconic sex symbols. With The Doors, he created timeless hits like Light My Fire and Riders on the Storm, embodying the counterculture spirit of the 1960s. On July 3, 1971, Morrison was found dead in the bathtub of his Paris apartment. He was 27 years old. Because no autopsy was performed, the official cause of heart failure has fueled endless speculation and conspiracy theories, from a heroin overdose to the idea that he faked his own death. Whatever the truth, his passing cemented his legend as a rock and roll martyr, another brilliant artist lost at a tragically young age. Jim Morrison is buried in the famous Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris. His grave is one of the most visited in the world, drawing a constant stream of fans. After years of vandalism, the grave is now protected by a barrier. A headstone installed in 1981 bears the Greek inscription Kata ton daimona eutou, which translates to true to his own spirit. Despite the controls, it remains a powerful place of pilgrimage, a tangible connection to the myth and mystery of the legendary frontman. Jimi Hendrix is widely regarded as the most influential electric guitarist in history. In a mainstream career that lasted only 4 years, he completely redefined the sonic possibilities of the instrument, fusing blues, rock, and soul with an unprecedented use of feedback and distortion. His iconic performances at the Monterey Pop Festival and Woodstock are legendary moments in music history. He was a true virtuoso and a visionary artist who changed the sound of music forever. On September 18, 1970, Hendrix died in London at the age of 27. He was found unconscious by his girlfriend after having taken sleeping pills. The post-mortem examination concluded that he had asphyxiated on his own vomit while intoxicated with barbiturates. The coroner recorded an open verdict, as it was unclear if the overdose was accidental. His sudden death silenced one of the most creative forces in modern music, leaving behind an unparalleled legacy. Jimi Hendrix was buried at Greenwood Memorial Park in his hometown of Renton, Washington. In 2002, His remains were moved to a new, elaborate granite memorial dome within the same cemetery. This grand, gazebo-like structure features pillars, an etched portrait of Hendrix, and inscriptions of his lyrics. It is a family plot and serves as a fitting tribute where fans from across the globe can come to pay their respects to the man who forever changed the electric guitar.